now. Okay. And we are good to go. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all the viewers across the world, depending on your time zones. Today, it's my honor and pleasure to have the webinar podcast series initiated by the European Membrane Society. I am Syed Usman, currently serving as the Secretary of the European Membrane Society Council. And today, we are going to have a guinea pig with Dr. Lidietta Giorno. I'm sure she needs no introduction, but just a few lines on Dr. Lidietta Giorno. She is currently the Research Director at the Institute on Membrane Technology in Italy, ITM-CNR. She has served as the Director of the Institute for a decade until 2019. She is an expert in membrane science and membrane bioengineering, focusing on biohybrid, bio-inspired nanostructure membranes, biocatalytic membranes and membrane reactors, membrane emulsification, downstream bioprocessing, integrated membrane processes, water treatment, and membrane biorefinery, to mention a few. She was awarded the International Award Guido d'Orso for Research in 2011 and the Sapio Red Carpet Award in 2016. She has served on the EMS Council as the President in the years 2009 to 2011, and she was conferred with the Honorary Member of EMS in 2014, and she has been the editor of the Membrane News, the official EMS newsletter, since 2002. She is also the co-author of over 300 peer-reviewed papers, various books, and the Encyclopedia on Membranes published by Springer. She is also the editor of the JMS since January 2020. And to add a personal touch, she was my co-supervisor during my PhD in the framework of UDIME Erasmus Mundus Doctorate in Membrane Engineering. Thank you, Dr. Lidietta, for gracing the occasion and for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much, Usman, for this kind honor. I'm really honored and privileged to be here today, and thanks a lot for your kind attention.
The pleasure is all ours. So for the viewers, just to have the format of today's webinar podcast, for the initial 45 minutes, we will be focusing on trying to touch the membrane journey and try to have an insight on the life of a membranologist, who better than Dr. Lidietta Giorno. We'll have some questions she can answer, she can recall, she can highlight her membrane journey. And then it will be followed by a 15 minutes brief presentation on biofunctional membranes. Please wait till the end, because we're also having some fun game questions where I will be putting her on spot instead of the other way around for a few minutes. And then we invite the viewers to have some questionnaire sessions with her. And this will be in total 75 minutes. To begin with Dr. Lidietta Giorno, in the light of the recently celebrated Membrane Day 2025, could you please share with the viewers about the celebrations in ITM-CNR and the whole EMS initiative of honoring the legacy of Professor Enrico Drioli to celebrate Membrane Day, which will be followed eventually in the subsequent years?
Yes, this idea of having this Membrane Day on the 14th of April, which is the birthday of Professor Drioli, I think was extremely unique and original. At the beginning myself, I had a doubt on how we would handle and how we would do this. But then having seen the results, I think it was very, very nice. Especially because of the contribution of so young researchers, so young students who met Professor Drioli, who worked with him, and who contributed to do this, to make this day a success. I was really, really amused and happy to see so many manifestations of affection, not only from young, but also from experienced researchers. So thank you very much for this format, which again is an experiment, and as this, it was interesting in all the aspects. At our institute, we, especially Elena Tocci, together with other colleagues, we have organized a treasure hunt. And we had the 3 groups of 10 young researchers that have been struggling in solving questions and identifying the paths that would have brought them to the solution. So the first group who reached the solution faster, let's say, got a prize. And in addition, after this game, it was also organized a cake competition. So a lot of people. There were some pictures also that these are the 3 groups that have been participating. These are the pictures at the end of the game, and the cake were prepared by students, by researchers, and in the next slide is illustrated this. You see that the cakes have been prepared thinking of membranes and what were their properties. The winner, I tell you immediately, is the layered composite delight, which was delicious. And it was explained in detail how it was prepared, exactly how if you would prepare a membrane. And yeah, you can see here so many, the pervapo cake and the sweet layer membrane, and these mixed matrix cookies, or the graphies, or the bioreactor. And then this one, which was prepared as for the H impact factor of Professor Drioli. It was a very nice day, yeah, to celebrate with joy, let's say, the legacy of Professor Drioli.
Indeed, we were definitely amused by all the celebrations at ITM-CNR. I would just like to give a brief update to all the viewers that the evaluation has almost finished, and very soon the EMS will announce the winners for having the most creative and impactful Membrane Day celebrations. And I have to also acknowledge that there were more than 28 research groups from over 18 countries that participated in the Membrane Day 2025 celebrations. So moving further, Lidietta, I mean, I can't think of any better appropriate person to ask about recalling the life of Professor Drioli. He has been resonating with the membrane souls across the globe, and undoubtedly one of the biggest ambassadors of promoting membrane field. Could you share some light on your commentary with him, and how was it to be associated with him for such a long time?
Yeah, I have been very fortunate, to meet Professor Drioli as a young student, and to cooperate with him for a long time. In addition to the great knowledge in any area of a membrane, what really inspired us and me, it was his attitude. He has been an extremely positive person, energetic, and full of creativity. So in addition to knowledge, scientific knowledge in membrane science and engineering, what we could get from him, it was the passion and the approach to work for the community, and to do things at best because it's right to do that for the community, not because it's convenient for ourselves. And this is really a strategy and an approach which is not always common. It's very common in our community, but I have to say not in all scientific world you can find this kind of attitude. And indeed, here it's summarized some of the highlight. Professor Drioli was really a pioneer, and really a giant in membrane science. The first meeting in membrane science and application was organized as a NATO Advanced Study Institute by Professor Gregor and Professor Lidietta, who was the professor with whom Professor Drioli was working with, and it was on membrane transport phenomena in Ravello. So this dates back on 1966. It was really at the early stage of membrane science. And then after some time, another conference was organized. In this little picture, you can't recognize, but there are most of the biggest names in membranes. What marked a lot the impact that Professor Drioli had in the membrane community is the fact that together with other few visionaries, including Philippe Aptel, Heiner Stratmann, Gun Tragard, they and other people also, they were brainstorming and reasoning on how to harmonize the membrane activity at the European level. And in 1982, the European Membrane Society was founded. At that time, it was called the European Society of Membrane Science and Technology. And this society was a learning, and still remains a learning society, registered as a legal entity at the prefecture of Toulouse in 1992. And this is a non-profit society. And since then, Professor Drioli was the first president of this society, and he served as the president for more than 15 years. And together with these visionaries and others, again, that then have contributed to the society, have built the platform for harmonize and for progressing the membrane science and technology. And they came up with this nice idea that still is continued, to have every year summer schools. So the first summer school, it was organized in 1984 in Cadarache in France. And since then, every year, except the year of COVID, it was performed. And not even in Europe, in Western Europe, but it was also done in Eastern or in other countries abroad internationally. And another big, for us also important step that Professor Drioli has contributed to it was to propose the foundation of a research institute fully dedicated to membranes. And this proposal was accepted by the National Research Council of Italy. And in 1993, it was founded the Institute on Membranes and Chemical Reactors, for which Professor was director. And under his leadership, the Institute has made a huge progress, gaining immediately visibility at international level, thanks to his incredible activity worldwide. And since then, the Institute has grown as well, and he has contributed to the Institute until the very final moment.
Indeed. Yeah. I would also like to remind the viewers and invite them to also read the article by Lidietta and Professor Donald in 2014, which was a tribute to Professor Enrico Drioli's journey, an obituary published by the Nature Water written by Lidietta, and the collection of letters from various membrane researchers to the editor of JMS honoring Professor Drioli. It's in progress and it will be published very soon. Also, I would like to know, Lidietta, that since you have been speaking about honoring Professor Enrico Drioli through the Membrane Day, which was celebrated this year, how do you envision this event to get bigger and better in the coming years?
Yeah, I think that now there are many examples on what we can do. Those like me who had no fantasy in understanding what to perform, we can get inspiration. And certainly we can communicate more and more this event, this action, in such a way that also younger societies and younger groups, or let's say the societies that have been established recently, can contribute as well. I'm sure we will have much more contributions from Europe as well, and from all over the world, from Asia, from Africa, and from America as a continent. I'm sure that as we get to see these nice memories and this nice collection of thoughts, we will get more involved and more inspired. And with time, I'm sure this day it remains dedicated to Professor Drioli, because he has done so much in the foundation of the society at European level. But it will certainly evolve as a membrane day that will be celebrated even beyond the specific connection with Professor Drioli, which is the impact that he is continuing to have even after he passed away.
And that's what even EMS hopes for, to indeed make it bigger and better in the coming years. Coming to the institute you represent or you're associated with, I was wondering if ITM-CNR, is it one of the biggest membrane institutes in Europe? And could you share some knowledge about the establishment of this institute and how it has been renamed as ITM Enrico Drioli CNR? And lastly, how does it work in tandem with the University of Calabria in Italy?
As I was mentioning, Professor Drioli has this visionary idea of establishing this institute. Now it seems quite obvious, okay? We have so many large structures, research groups and institutions all over the world that are dedicated to membranes. But at that time, it was not so common, and still membranes had not such recognition as they have today. You know? So Professor Drioli was awarded with a full professorship at the University of Calabria in 1992. So he built the first research group on membranes at this university. And with time, he felt that membranes, he predicted actually that membranes would have such a huge impact and evolution, that it was necessary to enlarge the critical mass, the number of people devoted to study this. So he struggled to create environment and funds for having more opportunities. And therefore, this proposal that was accepted by the National Research Council to found an institute within the University of Calabria in such a way that the Professor Drioli was at the same time professor at the Chemical Engineering Department and director of the institute. So it was very natural to have a full symbiosis in terms of laboratories and researchers to work together to enhance this. Then, with time, there was more and more from the Ministry of Education, let's say, suggestion and a driving on integrating the research institutions with the universities in such a way that both universities would have more opportunity to learn advanced research, and also the research institutions would have the opportunity to recruit, to form, to educate, to train students, and to form a next generation of researchers. So this full integration of the institute, which is only from the administrative point of view independent from the university, is very useful because it's a win-to-win situation. And we get the great advantage of hosting so many students, so many PhD students, postdocs, and that is extremely fresh blood that continuously, and you were one of these examples, no? Because you came to the university as to do the secondment within your doctorate, and then we had the opportunity to work together and so this is a nice example on how this formula worked very well, growing both as a university group and as institute.
And now that you have spoken about ITM Enrico Drioli CNR, I would like to know, and from the viewer's point of view, how was it being the director of the institute for a decade?
Yeah, it was a privilege, of course. It was a honor and a privilege. But it was, of course, I felt the responsibility of having such a huge, responsible position. And especially, let's say, because after Professor Drioli, you have such a giant in front of you that is always very, very demanding and very difficult. But it was extremely nice. And I had the opportunity, and I was very lucky because, of course, Professor Drioli helped us a lot. But I also had the fortune to cooperate with colleagues that, in general and as a majority, they have been very cooperative, and we had in mind a common objective, growing together. Of course, each individual has its own ambitions, but this ambition and this energy has to be coordinated within a common interest of a higher institution. And this, I think, most of people have worked in this direction, so that besides the difficulties that time by time you have in terms of availability of funds or new positions and so on, we all have been working, trying to improve ourselves and the overall institution. But you were mentioning earlier that I missed to answer in the previous time. It's true, we have now, after Professor Drioli has done so much for the Institute, our current director, Alberto Figoli, has presented the proposal that we all have taught and shared to name the Institute after Professor Drioli. So all the procedures are almost at the end. All these things have been approved, and very soon it will be formalized. And so the new name of the institute will be Institute of Membrane Technology Enrico Drioli. And yeah, this is, I think, very well.
Speaking of the ever-smiling Dr. Alberto Figoli, who is currently the president who's of the ITM-CNR. What is your current role in this institute? We read that you are the research director. What exactly is the role to advance the institute? And I'll also take the opportunity to ask, since when exactly have you been associated with this institute?
Yes, as you mentioned, I have been the director of the institute for 10 years. Yes. And the statutes of the CNR at one point introduces the rule that you can compete for this position only up to a certain age, and you cannot do it for more than 2 terms, for 2 times. So in this context, I have been the director of this, which means that you are the legal responsible of the institute from the administrative, legal, and scientific point of view. As a research director, our role is to be responsible of a certain research environment and to raise funds for these activities. There are various research directors now at our institute that we have grown. Now we are more than 53 permanent staff and additional 50 temporary PhD students, postdoc, master students, and visiting scientists. And being such a huge number of people, we needed to be structured in groups or laboratories, even though it is not really rigid organization. It's very dynamic because the groups, they cooperate depending on the expertise and depending on the type of activity and studies that we have to perform. So we can join and really very nice osmosis and dynamic. It's not always simple and easy, but when you get used to it, you will do it. How I was getting involved with the institute?
Yes.
I started my master thesis with Drioli. So he was my supervisor, and then I continued also to perform the PhD with him as well. At that time, it was still only the university research group. And then later on, when the institute has been formally structured and assumed his own autonomy, I have been working actually at the university and at the ITM naturally. It was the same lab, the same building. Later on, when we have grown, we have got new space, new laboratories, and now we are more, let's say, individual as infrastructure, as laboratories. But I can say that this was just a natural evolution. I got the chance to compete for a permanent position at the CNR, at the Institute, and then I succeeded to have this position. And since then, I continued to work for the Institute, always cooperating also with the university, initially more with the Department of Chemical Engineering, but nowadays we cooperate with so many diverse: chemistry, pharmaceutical, biology, even cultural aspects. So the symbiosis and the integration, it worked quite significantly.
It is indeed so refreshing to see you recollecting your membrane journey. You have indeed answered partially my next couple of questions, which were, how did you first become interested in membrane science? Well, we see it from master's degree. And what has driven your passion for this field? I think the viewers have completely understood. And do you recollect your master's thesis, what work it was, and the doctoral work? Of course, it was based on membranes. And my question was, who were your supervisors, which you have given us a glimpse? But touching your master's and your doctoral work, Lidietta, how do you recollect it?
Yeah, from the very beginning, I have been intrigued by the harmonization, let's say, or the interaction of biological molecules with synthetic membranes. The reason for this was that artificial membranes are very stable. Natural membranes are extremely efficient, but very labile. So how to combine the two things in order to get stabilized biomolecules or more performing artificial membranes? So I started this big research question from the very beginning. And initially, I have been involved with polymeric membranes and immobilization of biomolecules, enzymes to membranes to produce valuable molecules. And then I continued this from diverse perspectives during my PhD. I have been always intrigued by the capability of nature to design such a complex systems, highly performing. My really challenge is, can we achieve those large efficiency by doing a better design of the membrane, less complex as it is the natural one, more straightforward, but then still very, very efficient. This is quite difficult, of course, but I think once we understand the general rules and the fundamentals on how to tune these properties, then we can promote extremely great advantages in terms of breakthrough in membranes and in sustainable industrial production.
All right. Now let's focus on your EMS journey. Could you share a summary of how you were first introduced to the EMS and how has it been over the years, especially under your presidency?
Oh yes, that was also an extremely interesting experience. Probably I must say that working with Professor Drioli since the beginning of my career, and being he the one of the major players in EMS, it was quite obvious and natural for me to help for various aspects into the society, and also to attend conference, summer schools, and starting to meet the people, the Giant that you read in the literature, no? And then you meet and you talk to them, and this is really emotional. And as time was passing by and I getting more and more into the system, then it was really, let's say, a privilege to think to formalize the contribution to the society. And therefore, I have proposed my candidacy. I have been elected for 2 times, in fact, and the second term I have been also elected as the president. And this was an extremely wonderful moment because this recognition unanimously, it touches you very much, because it means that you work in a way that people perceive that you do it with your heart and you do it for the benefit of the community. So then, being the president of the EMS, after so many people that have been important presidents, always you feel like you are in front of giants that are too far away from yourself. But again, I have been lucky, and the colleagues into the council at that time, and the members, and in general the community has been always so helpful in highlighting things that were good or things that had to be improved, and what could be done better, and so on. So we always have been very, very happy to receive inputs from the community, and to perform in the direction that everyone could feel really in a family. And yeah, this was the journey, basically.
Well, trying to also touch on another moment of pride. Do you remember the moment you received the news that you were nominated as the EMS honorary member in 2014?
Oh yes, it was a very amazing moment, because I received this email from the president. It was in the occasion of, it would have been announced at ICOM in 2014 in China. And I remember also that Professor Drioli, when I told him this, he just said, "You know, Lidietta, this is a sign of age." I realized that he was true, of course, but it was very, very nice indeed to receive this memory. And I was particularly proud because I was nominated together with Karl Bodecker and Pierre Aymar, two giants of membranes and two giants of the EMS. And yeah, this is a picture when we had this ceremony, and Pavel Izak was chairing this session. Yeah, it was really nice and renowned for 2 reasons. One, because I was nominated, and 2, because I was nominated at the same time with the such two giants.
I mean, this picture is a treat to our eyes, definitely. Speaking of women in membrane science specifically, you have been one of the champions in it. Can you share a bit of experience as a woman entering the field of membrane science? Did you encounter any unique challenges early in your career?
Well, I think the membrane community is so advanced from a scientific and from a cultural point of view. It's so open and so integrated that I never really felt any issue entering the field. Also because I have to say, again, Professor Drioli has been a kind of person that was free of any prejudice. And you never feel to be judged because you are a woman or because you come from this or that country. You are only a person that can contribute, and if you do well, you will merit any and deserve any merit. Otherwise, it's just because of you. So in the community and in the society, at any level or at any situation or meeting or project and so on, I never felt any gender issue or gender problem dimension and so on. It is true that in Europe still, I mean, we have so many women working at the very beginning of the career. And then as we go up to the pyramid of responsibilities, the percentage of women at the very top level goes from, let's say, 60% or 70% at the base and less than 10% at the very top. In fact, for example, as director of the institute, I was only one of the 10 director woman over more than 100 director of institute of the CNR. But within the EMS, this I think has never been a problem, an issue. And in fact, if we think of the presidents that have been serving the society, we see a very well balanced number of people, female and male, and yeah, I think this has to be something that we have to be concerned of, in the sense that still nowadays female, they are willing to do things, they are willing to be in a very high position, but they don't pose themselves as they must do. They will do, they will be happy to do, and they will do very, very well. But it's not a must as it is in the mentality of a man. No? So this still probably has to improve. And also, if we see the honorary members, all the big names are there, and of course they can be enlarged, they can improve. And we hope that new generations will pose the, let's say, the conditions in which both men and women can manifest their willingness and they can perform their job. But I must say that in the European society, member society, or also in the other membrane societies that I'm familiar with, for example, the NAMS and so on, I don't see big issues in terms of gender.
That's really interesting to know, and you have really struck the right chord with the viewers. Moving further, what are some of the most exciting innovations in membrane technology that you've been involved with recently?
Well, innovation is something that is quite important. We have been working a lot at a research level, but always have been paying attention on how to innovate, on how to use, on how to make the knowledge an economic value as well. As researchers of my age, I would say, we were not so familiar with this kind of attitude. New researchers, new generations are being trained also for doing this. I must say that the most significant impact in innovation that have contributed to it has been in the use of membranes for wastewater treatment from agri-food, extraction and valorization of components, doing in such a way that you can really protect the biomolecules and reuse. And the other big impact in general, I think, is in the understanding how we can fabricate membranes with biomolecules to produce extremely high added value components.
Indeed. Well, now looking back, what would you say that has been the defining moment or breakthrough in your career that made you feel you were indeed on the right track?
Ooh, you know, the daily life and the say a career is built on everyday activity, work, and dedication. Certainly, the moment I was elected president of the EMS would have been one of the moment that really you touch the recognition from your colleagues, which is very important. So in terms of responsibility, I must say president of the EMS and director of the institute have marked and have directed, let's say, the activity. But I must say that I most enjoy my time working with in the lab with students, and also attending conferences and meeting people, friends. The membrane community has traditionally been like a club of families that you meet time by time. Nowadays, the generations are increasing, they are growing, and so on. So you really see also this nice aspect that enjoy a lot, that the time and the activity you have been cooperating with had a really good impact. And especially we had this nice action of the European Doctorate of Membrane Engineering that Professor Drioli was coordinating through the University of Calabria. In this contest and in other projects in which we have had the opportunity to recruit PhD students and postdoc, to see the evolution, and that most of these people have now a career in membranes and they occupy position at the highest level worldwide, is really a nice thing to see.
For sure. Now let's talk about your scientific journey, which of course is not a cakewalk. Every scientific journey comes with obstacles. What was one of the biggest hurdles you faced in your membrane research, and how did you overcome it?
Well, you know, the challenges are so many and every day. Probably the most difficult or the most challenging thing is to secure funds for your research lines in such a way that you can focus well enough without having too much time to spend for other directions. Being lucky in meeting people that you can work very nicely and very and in a very profitable way from all point of views. From the scientific point of view, understanding point of view, I still have so many challenges.
that's never going to end for sure.
Questions. So I hope I have more opportunity to discuss more about it.
Of course, of course. Now let's speak from your expert point of view, that there's often a gap between research and the real world application. Can you talk about a time when you faced this gap between the research and real world application, and how you managed to translate your findings into practical solutions?
As I was mentioning, it is a big challenge to translate knowledge into economic value, no? Into innovation. I think that performing research and being trained as a researcher, you always look at the on how to understand how things work, on how to explain mechanisms at the very basic and fundamental perspective. Then once you have understood this, you can manipulate this knowledge and govern the mechanisms, no? So then you translate the knowledge that you have got in a new membrane, in a better performing membrane, and so on. But I have to say that in many occasions, when you find something that you really see an application, you file a patent, but then you realize that this, to translate in innovation, is still another job, no? So nowadays we are implementing in the PhD students training also aspects on the management and innovation aspects. But one of the ways I have used to overcome this gap is to cooperate with people who are expert in the translation into the innovation. So cooperation with industry is also very important. So this is a so important aspect, no, that even at European level we have studied this problem because we invest a lot of money in performing research, in funding research projects, but then all this knowledge is very little translated to commercial results. So now there are a lot of action on trying to reduce this valley of death and making it a challenge basin. The way to do this is to work and involve in the research projects also industry, small and medium enterprise and large companies, that they know the problems at the real world. This is starting to work a little bit better, but I would also encourage to look at the investment in research as a resource, not as a cost, no? Because we should never underestimate that the huge number of people that have been trained in science, in membrane technology, and so on through the various projects, for example, and the experience they have got while traveling in diverse countries is something that is intangible, but is certainly an economic resource, because this is what really impacts and enhances the competitiveness of a country, in my opinion.
That's more than agreeable. Thank you, Lidietta, for making it so convenient with the value of that metaphor. Now, moving further, you've been recognized as a leader in your field. What key decisions or shifts in mindset helped you transition from being a researcher to an expert and leader in membrane science?
I think Professor Drioli would say age. I think that, while you work every day in a constant and continuous way, and you try to improve, of course, with time you build up an experience, an expertise, that this then makes you to look at the problems in a more simple way. At the beginning, you are really struggling in trying to obtain good results, good products, membranes that work in a very high-performing way. And this is, of course, extremely important. But with time, you also understand that trying to understand why something does not work and to explain it is also very important. So understanding how things work, understanding the basic law of how things work, it is so important that then you can again translate this into products, service, whatever.
There's no denying that. Thank you. In your journey, you've probably worked with many brilliant minds. How has collaborating with other researchers and scientists shaped your approach to membrane technology in particular?
Very much, because and especially I'm working in an institute that is really multidisciplinary. So when you are in a group, in an environment that you bring diverse knowledge, diverse approach, and you try to harmonize them into a specific field, this brings not only knowledge, but also attitude, approach. And of course, this enriches a lot the knowledge, enriches a lot the achievements. For sure, together and diverse people and diverse approaches can introduce, let's say, can introduce breakthrough aspects than working always together in the same way, with the same language, may not be. So interacting with extremely important people and the experience and knowledge of the people is so important, but also with very young students that have ideas that are not conditioned by the knowledge that you have already in the field. This is also very important.
In the same line of thought about the perspective, usually we see in conferences that industrialists or company people, they are invited to give their perspective to the research world for the researchers. Let's try to reverse the role. What is your perspective as an academician? Like, how can industries or companies looking to implement membrane technologies ensure that they are staying ahead of the curve in terms of innovation and environmental impact? What would be your academician's point of view to them?
I think that, which is something that industries we cooperate with nowadays, they do a lot. Of course, their involvement in the research, pre-competitive research in very early stage is important, because even though the industry cannot tell the specific problem they have, but they indicate what kind of knowledge we would need to advance, and of course also invest in research and share the benefit of the results with the researchers. So it's a kind of approach and mentality that I think is changing both from the academic side and from the industrial side, because both have understood that if they don't merge together the expertise, the knowledge, and the let's say knowledge gap that each has, this will not enhance significantly the competitiveness.
Completely agree. Can you also share some instances where membrane technology directly impacted someone's life or career, or as a community in general?
Well, I think I have already mentioned the huge number of students, PhD students, postdoc, that have been involved with membranes, and nowadays they are working all over the world in a very good or high position. This is in terms of career. In terms of impact in life, I think membranes are really sustaining quality of life and development. We see membranes so important in producing potable water in many areas of the world. We see how they are important for many applications that we are familiar with. In my opinion, the biomedical field still has to gain a lot from membranes. Indeed, the medical environment is the largest market of membranes nowadays. But besides this, I think in the context of monitoring environment or analytical tools like membrane-based biosensors, this is a field which is still the role of membrane is under developed. I think the membrane have a great possibility to give a breakthrough because the difficulty in this field is to intercept very small molecules and very small concentrations. If we think of contaminant, or if we think of a target molecule that is in our body, which is just indicating maybe the starting of a certain disease and so on. Having that can allow us to intercept these molecules at a very early stage is extremely important, not only for monitoring the environment, but for having screening of mass at the population level and so on. So this is something that I'm recently working on, and I think we will benefit a lot in this area.
And we'll also look forward to hearing you speak about it in a few minutes. We are almost ending the podcast. I just have a few more questions, quick ones. If you could go back to the beginning of your career, knowing what you know now, is there anything you would like to have done differently, or advice you would have given to your younger self?
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is an interesting question because in my mind, I think I'm the kind of person that if I had the chance to do it again, knowing what I have done, I would do it a better way, for sure, not exactly the same. But what I would change or I would do in the past, I think what I missed sometimes is that I would have spent more time abroad for longer time. I have been during my PhD and my postdoc in the USA, in France, in the Netherlands for several months. But after you get a permanent position, somehow you are forced to work for that institution in a stable, permanent way. The universities have this nice sabbatical period. So at the same time, you can take some break and do something else in a different area and in a different topic. At the CNR, we don't have this formula. And I miss this very much. I think at a certain time, I would have liked a lot to spend 1 year or some more time again in another country.
I think there could be no better answer for that. Well, last 3 quick questions. Outside of your research, are there any books, articles, or other resources that you found beneficial in your early career stage? And would you recommend to someone wanting to learn more about membrane science?
Oh, yes, I would recommend to look at the milestone books that founders have written. I certainly would recommend to look, even if it is not specifically the field of our own research, but certainly the works from Patrick Mears, Heiner Stratman, Richard Baker. These are books that it is important to always have nearby on your desk, because they are always the source of inspiration and information. Yeah, for those who work in ultrafiltration, of course, there are also a lot of books, even though they have been published in the past, but the fundamentals are very important. And they have been updated continuously with new editions. Yeah.
True. Talking about organizing scientific events, any particular event you would like to recollect now to the viewers?
Well, besides the events that we have organized, summer schools or Euromembrane, we had organized the one in 2006. I think the last one, it is useful to mention because it was in 2022 in Sorrento. And this was to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the EMS. And it's particularly kind to me because I remember the joy of Professor Drioli of welcoming so many historical friends and new students. And he was always saying, you know, Lidietta, at one point we could meet people that we all know. Nowadays, I know maybe less than 10%, which is very nice because it means that the field has grown so much.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so this is, but if you ask me which is the conference that I mostly remember for some particular reason, of course, the first ICOM I have attended in Heidelberg in '93, but the most touching one to me, it was ICOM in 2002 in Toulouse. Pierre Renard and colleagues in France were organizing that, and because it was the time we just transited into the terrorist period. It was 2002, just 2001, the attack to the Sears Towers, and there were also some terrorist event in France and in Spain, and we were all afraid that people would not travel to go to the conference. But the response of the community was so huge and so high that so many people attended that ICOM that I think at that time ICOM, the community was still not so huge as today. But in the ICOM, when it was really reaching a very high number of participants, maybe it was around 700, 800 people. That time they were above 1,000. To the point that the meeting room, the plenary room had to be connected with a screen in another room. So for this reason, it was really amazing to see the response of people against something that was really frightening us because it was a new situation. Now we are more or less adapted to that situation, but at the time it was starting and it was very difficult. But colleagues from Toulouse were so nice and have organized the wonderful and the nice event.
Yes. Well, to conclude the conversation before we hear about your scientific presentation, I would humbly request you to remind the viewers about the creation and vision of the World Association of Membrane Societies, as we say, WAMS.
WAMS is an extremely interesting action, again, stimulated and discussed a lot from Professor Drioli in very early times, that was maybe in around 2010, 2011. There was this evidence of the growing of the community, and therefore there was growing in the number of society. At the beginning, there was the Japanese society, the EMS, the European society, the North American. Later on, the ASEANian Membrane Society was founded, and so on. And now the African Membrane Society. So there was the need to have a society, an organization above these continental, let's say, societies that harmonize the activity, the work, and this then ended up recently at NAMS. Also, DB has recalled this action that it was then started to discuss among the societies in 2014 during ICOM in Suzhou in China. And then in 2017 at the ICOM in San Francisco, the WAMS was formalized, and it was initiated as president, as the responsible from the European Member Society. And at that time, Bart van der Bruggen was the president of the EMS, and he endorsed also the responsibility of the WAMS. And now it turns every ICOM, every 3 years, to a different society as it migrates in a different continent. So at the moment, the WAMS is ruled by the North American Member Society. So in the next 3 years, then it will come back to Europe again.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Lidietta, for having this, for giving viewers a chance to enjoy the podcast. Now let's have the traditional EMS webinar where I invite you to present your scientific work for the next 15 minutes. and the stage is all yours.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much for this. So I will focus on, again, some research questions that I have introduced to you and I have been struggled with, and I'm still trying to sort out breakthrough. And again, the point is to impart biofunctional properties to synthetic membranes. Of course, this can be done. Here is illustrated where we are located. The reason for doing this, and what I will try to highlight in this 15 minutes, is what are the research gap, let's say, the knowledge gap, and the trends that, in my opinion, we should focus on in order to enhance and improve the performance. What we all know is that the biological membranes have such a high performance in terms of selectivity and permeability. And we should observe that the membranes, the biological membrane, achieve these functions through highly functional, ordered, and geometrically ordered systems. So they are extremely complex. High selectivity is achieved by cascade separation mechanism. We don't have only one mechanism, not only sites sieving or Donnan exclusion or a combination of both. They are in a hierarchical way organized. Fouling then is controlled by applying low flux and cleaning and regenerating the membrane. The target productivity, because they work with low flux, is achieved by using a huge membrane area. But the fantastic thing is that this huge membrane area is compacted in a very small module. So what we needed to try to develop is the design of modules or membranes that we can enlarge the membrane surface without enlarging the size of the modules. The target productivity is achieved by using fluid dynamics and hydrodynamics and osmotic pressure that are tuned depending on the type, structure of channel, and so on. Other aspects of the biological world is that what we refer in general to is the bilayer lipid. But of course, this is only the membrane of an individual cell. Then cells of diverse type can assemble together, can organize in a very ordered and hierarchical way to form asymmetric thin film nanocomposites, which are membrane overall. These then are formed as a capillary membrane, and we are very familiar with. And then these capillary are twisted in such a way that we end up in a module like a kidney, in a module of 9-10 centimeter, where we can have the equivalent surface of a tennis field. Now, the treatment, this kind of functional module treats about 180 liters per day with 99% of water recovery. What we lose are about these 2 liters of water that we need to drink every day in order to keep clean and balanced all the ions in our system. So all these are things. So the selectivity for proteins, for example, is 100%. Fouling is really well controlled, and the lifetime of membrane is the duration of our life, basically. So how can we develop systems that can be self-cleaned and maintain this performance? Another interesting aspect is that in nature, the flow direction goes from the larger pores towards the smaller pores. And this is the way the selectivity is enhanced. We do the opposite. No? We filter solutions from the thin selective layer towards the larger support. And we do this because we don't know how to control fouling. Otherwise, we will plug the membrane and we will kill the process. But these are just hints to think on how and why certain processes are performed in nature in a different way. We are trying to develop and to explain some of these reasons. And also the biochemical catalysts, no, they are so high selectivity. They do not produce intermediate, they do not produce byproducts, and they work in mild conditions. This would really change totally the way we produce, no? Because instead of treating wastes, we can prevent wastes while producing our things. So the point is that if we can introduce these macromolecules into a membrane, and then we can perform the reaction in such a way that the reagent enters the membrane where the enzyme is located, and then the product is released into the bulk, we can enhance eventually the productivity of the system. Here I want to underline that when we have these systems in the reaction equation, we have to remember that the transport of the reagent to the reaction site and then of the product from the reaction site to the bulk, it has a delay which is translated in a time lag of the reaction. While the free enzyme, we can detect immediately the products into the environment, and it takes the shape of the well-known Michaelis-Menten model. I know that you don't see my pointer, and I try to explain in more details the things. The enzymes are so powerful that they can distinguish between enantiomers. Enantiomers are a mirror image of each other molecules, and it is well understood that one enantiomer has beneficial effect, the other one has serious side effects, might have a serious side effect. And this is because the communication at molecular level in nature occurs by chiral interactions. And one of my first work was that if we can modulate and attach an enzyme which is selective for one enantiomer in a racemic mixture. Here we have, for example, the reaction of the hydrolysis of naproxen methyl ester into S-naproxen acid, while because the enzyme is so selective only for the S-ester, it will produce only the S-acid, and the other ester, the R, it remains unconverted. So now they are two diverse molecules and can be more easily separated. If we do this in a membrane, where the membrane separates and contacts at the same time two different phases. Here in yellow, we have an organic phase that solubilizes the esters. And from the other side, we have an aqueous phase in which the acid is soluble. So if we can perform the reaction with the enzyme lipase in this study that I have been performing, then in the structure that I have shown you before, then the ester will transfer through the membrane to the enzyme. If the enzyme remains selective, only the S-naproxen can be produced. What we do if we go to analyze the free enzyme and the enzyme loaded membrane, what we observe is that the free enzyme has an extremely high enantiomeric excess. Here the green line has been lost, but there is an increase of the S-naproxen acid. With the system of the enzyme loaded membrane, we see that the enantiomeric excess is lower than 100, it's around 80%, which is what is commonly observed in the literature, that the enzymes that are heterogenized, then they enhance their stability, but they lose their selectivity. Then we have been wondering what we could do and why this was happening. Then by investigating the structure of the system, this enzyme, the lipase, is a phase transfer catalyst. So it distributes at the interface, at the oil-water interface. And only when it is at the interface, it expresses its highest selectivity. Now, because we attach the enzyme in a random way within the membrane, only part of the enzyme might be at the interface. This was our hypothesis. If we manage to have all the immobilized enzyme at the interface, we would enhance the selectivity. Then we came up with the idea of immobilizing the enzyme within the membrane as oil droplets, so that the enzyme is at the interface of the oil droplets, and anywhere is located within the membrane, it will exhibit the highest conformation that gives the best selectivity. And when we analyze the performance of this system, we see that the performance of the system has been enhanced, and then the enantiomeric excess, it has increased again, which is reaching 100%. So this was one of the first examples that demonstrated that the inverse relationship between high stability and low selectivity of the immobilized enzyme is not a general rule, but we can obtain also very high stability and high selectivity. Here the animation is lost because we had to transform into PDF, but I think the general meaning is clear. Then we have started to try to understand what kind of parameters, factors might influence a membrane which is functionalized with an enzyme. And here wettability of the membrane is very important. Also amount of the enzyme and residence time, but I will not have enough time to discuss of this. What we can see that by increasing the water wettability, the performance of the enzyme increases. And we have further demonstrated this by using the PVDF membrane in a new conformation. We have attached the enzyme with the same methodology. I will explain eventually later if you are interested in, but it's a very well-established procedure, directly to the membrane or via microparticles of hydrogels, in such a way that the enzyme that is attached to the microgels within the membrane, the overall membrane is hydrophobic, it has a very high water contact angle, but locally at nanoscale, the enzyme is within a hydrophilic environment. And you can see very clearly that the red and the blue results illustrate the situation. So when we attach the enzyme even into a system that is unfavorable for the reaction, but we tune locally at the nanoscale the properties, we can enhance the performance. So this work was done by Giuseppe Vitola in cooperation with the group of Professor Matthias Ulbricht. And another important aspect that it was observed also in the literature is that the presence of surfactants enhances the performance of enzymes. And here we have cationic, the blue lines, and anionic, the red ones, in presence of the enzyme. In the table, you see that the enzyme in buffer has just 3.6 micromole per minute per milligram of enzyme, while with the CTAB, the positive surfactant is enormously increased, and also the negative one has an effect. What was studied to try to understand the phenomena, we have analyzed the secondary conformation of the enzyme, and by circular dichroism analysis, it was observed that the proportion of alpha and beta helix was changed when they were in presence of the diverse surfactants. When we have analyzed the kinetics of this system, we could see that the anionic surfactant had a strong impact on the Michaelis-Menten constant. In red, you see that the Michaelis-Menten constant was lowered, which means that on the left part, in the reaction equation, the step that was favored, enhanced, was the interaction between the substrate and the enzyme to form the enzyme substrate complex. While for the blue C-tab, we see that the kinetic constant K-cat was significantly enhanced. And this means that the second stage, the transformation of the enzyme substrate complex into the enzyme plus the product, was influenced. When we translate this into the enzyme within the membrane, we see that we do have an enhancement in terms of lowering the Michaelis-Menten constant and increasing the K-cat, but it was not so enormous. And this is because when the enzyme is fixed within the pores, it does not have too much freedom to change the conformation and assume the most active conformation. I know that time is running very fast, so I won't just conclude by saying that, in my opinion, these systems are extremely useful for reducing the water and carbon footprint, because, as I mentioned, they work really mild conditions, room temperature and atmospheric pressure, and they are extremely selective. And the research needs, we need membranes for this kind of systems, because very often we see that current membranes that have been developed for other applications, for other purposes, are adapted for these systems. Modules, of course, we need to design a totally diverse way the modules, and modeling to, let's say, reduce the trial and error approach of these systems. And with this, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, acknowledge also the other colleagues who have been working in diverse aspects of the work that were not presented today, but they do contribute a lot with this activity, and some of the most recent project that supports our activity. I hope I didn't say
so
much.
Dr. Lisa. Thank you. And it's always great to see your group members here on the screen. The EMS invites viewers to ask any questions or post comments that we can discuss quickly with Dr. Lidietta Giorno. But for now, it's time for some fun. In the next couple of minutes, we are going to put Lidietta on spot. We are going to have 3 different types of games, Lidietta. Quick ones. The only rule is that you should answer whatever comes first in your mind. So the first game is called as this or that questions. You should either choose this or that. So quickly, easy ones first. What do you prefer, mountains or beaches?
Beaches in summer and mountains in winter.
Okay. What's better for breakfast to an Italian? Bad coffee or good tea?
Tea.
And what's worse for an Italian? Pineapple on pizza or ketchup on pasta?
No answer.
Okay. What's more time consuming? Reviewing a badly written average article or an excellent article with breakthrough results?
Well, time consuming is nothing. Of course, with a very good manuscript, you learn more.
Okay. What's more enjoyable? Working in the laboratory with colleagues on an interesting project, or in a meeting room with industrialists to procure more lucrative funding? What's more enjoyable? I see you're taking some diplomacy approach here, but I'm not going to leave for the next one. What's relatively easier, academics or administration? Relatively easier.
I didn't catch
What is relatively easier, academics or administration?
Academics.
Okay. What do you prefer working on, polymeric membranes or ceramic membranes?
I've been working always mainly with polymeric membranes.
Okay. Spiral wound modules or hollow fiber modules?
If you work with water desalination and reverse osmosis, you are, spiral wound are the must. But my work, I have been working more with hollow fiber.
Hollow fibers. Membrane contactors or membrane separators?
It depends on what you have to do.
Now for you.
If I need to separate something, I must use separators. If I want to do some separation or reaction as I have shown you, I must do conductor. But probably, I like both.
And lastly, what do you prefer working on, lab scale innovation or industrial scalability?
Lab scale innovation.
Okay. And the next game is called as Never Have I Ever. So never have I ever celebrated a membrane not fouling for 24 hours like it was your birthday.
I never had such an opportunity.
Never have I ever accidentally used the wrong units in a calculation and didn't notice until reviewers' feedback or proofreading stage.
Not that I can remember.
Okay. Never have I ever written an entire grant in a caffeine-fueled weekend frenzy.
Never.
Never, okay. Never have I ever added novel or innovative in the early career stage to make your abstract sound cooler.
I tried.
Okay. Never have I ever written further research is needed just to end the paper.
No, because I know that the reviewer would ask for doing it for publishing the paper.
All right. Never have I ever gone out of the lab accidentally with the lab coat.
I did.
Okay. Never have I ever secretly loved a peer review feedback because it made your paper stronger.
Yeah, I always do.
Yes.
Because I think reviewers' comments always try to improve. Well, the comments should be made with the intention of improving a manuscript. And I found, in general, very helpful.
Indeed. Last three questions. Never have I ever skipped the gala dinner to revise a grant proposal or any such work.
Maybe I did.
Never have I ever...
Then I used it as an excuse, maybe.
Never have I ever lost track of time while answering someone's question during Q&A after the talk in a conference. That you lost track of time.
I think I missed your question. Sorry, that I have some echo.
So it says that never have I ever lost track of time while answering someone's question during the Q&A after the talk in a conference.
I did.
Oh, okay. And the last one. Never have I ever whispered finally when someone asked a smart question from the audience.
No, I think the questions are very good.
Yes, this was an amazing answers from the second game. And the last game is called as rapid fire questions. Your answers should be rapid and it should be full of fire with whatever comes first in your mind. What is one misconception in the general membrane community about Italians that you want to clear it today?
That they don't work enough hard.
Okay, I love this answer. Your most memorable conference you attended in your early stage career?
It was a summer school in north of Italy.
Okay. Which membrane researcher outside Europe did you consider a membrane celebrity in your early stage career?
Richard Baker.
Okay. One scientific myth you wish would disappear.
One scientific myth I wish it would disappear. I don't know. I have no
All
answer.
right. The most underrated material in membrane technologies.
The most underrated material. I can't answer any. No.
Okay. Favorite part of your research process? Idea, experiment, or impact?
Idea.
Idea. Okay. What is one, if you were a scientist, if you weren't a scientist, you would be?
An architect of gardens.
It's good to imagine. Last two questions. One word to describe membranes.
Life.
And last question. One word to describe the Lidietta Giorno.
An old woman.
No. I can give you a second chance.
Oh, well, happy to have so many friends all around the world.
I completely vouch for that. I'm sure the viewers would definitely agree. So this comes to the conclusion of the game session. Thank you so much for playing it with such a lively spirit. And if there are any questions from the audience, it's time to ask Dr. Lidietta now. Let me check if there are some questions. Yes, we have a question from the PhD candidate, Bhavna Alke. Dr. Lidietta, your journey in the membrane world sounds so eventful and refreshing. Based on your experience, what do you suggest young researchers focus on to thrive in the membrane world?
To focus on not on a specific topic, but I would recommend and remind, I'm telling many times, so maybe it's very now well known. In my opinion, success in terms of career, in terms of achievements, it is really related to three main parameters, factors: knowledge, practice, and talent. Where the weight of knowledge is the highest, the practice is very close to knowledge. Talent, it has to be there, but it's not the most significant part. A talent without practicing and without knowledge, it won't reach great success. So in general, normal people like me, they need to work a lot and to study a lot in order to reach, let's say, visibility.
Well, that's definitely an amazing way to end this entire session with the take-home message of Lidietta, knowledge, practice, and talent. So thank you once again for this wonderful webinar podcast. I never realized when 90 minutes flew by. I'm sure the viewers enjoyed it too. So thank you once again from the bottom of our hearts to volunteer yourself to accept our invitation for this webinar podcast series. Thank you so much, Lidietta.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, that's all for this week. And I would like to invite the viewers to join our next webinar podcast hosted by Professor Giorgio Secchi from KAUST. He will be interviewing Professor Peter Budd on June 9th, and the EMS will advertise it on the official social media channels. Once again, thank you everyone for their kind attention, and proud to be a membranologist.
I really invite you to follow the next one, because Peter Budd is a great person and a great scientist. Thank you.
Definitely. Okay. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.